But when I'm speaking about the inner child is the place in where you had so much curiosity in life, and you weren't afraid to like try new things. You weren't afraid to pivot. You just created, and it wasn't a sense of like what you were creating, whether it was a doodle or just a song that didn't make sense, or playing in the room by yourself, and making up these make believe characters. All those things we did when we were kids, or had moments of when we were kids. Not to that extent, but we can still live in that, still live in that lane of creatively being curious, still live in that lane of wanting to try new things out, and not being afraid of the what and how it's looking, but just the trying of it all. And so when I think of that in regards to our adulthood and creating businesses, it's that place of just creative freedom that I think our childhood selves will appreciate.
You're listening to the Black to Business Podcast, an educational podcast providing Black entrepreneurs with the tools and resources to start and grow their businesses. We chat with vetted Black entrepreneurs, thought leaders, and business owners as they provide tips and resources to help take your business to the next level. I'm your host, Monique T. Marshall. Welcome back to the Black to Business Podcast. I am your host, Monique T. Marshall. So let me ask you something. When is the last time that you let yourself be a little playful in your business? Like really tapped into that creative, unfiltered part of you that used to show up without hesitation. As kids, we made up stories, we danced just because, and we didn't care how it looked. But as Black entrepreneurs, many of us were taught that there's no space for that in business. We're told to keep it polished, keep it professional, and keep it always on point. And while that might help us look the part, it can also make us feel stuck and disconnected from the heart of our brand. And that is why I am so excited about today's conversation, because I'm joined by Aaron Chism, a Morehouse graduate, creative strategist, and former TikTok creative manager who's worked with some of the top creators on the platform. He knows firsthand what it's like to grow online, and it's not about being perfect. It's about being real. Now, through his work at Inner Child Creative, Aaron is helping entrepreneurs reconnect with their voice, embrace what makes them different, and show up online with confidence and consistency. So in this conversation, we're talking about how your inner child, the part of you that's curious, creative, and yes, a little silly, might be your greatest business asset. If content creation has been feeling overwhelming, heavy, or forced, this one is for you. So let's get into it. Aaron, welcome to the Black to Business Podcast. Such a treat to have you on the show, so welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yes, I am so excited to have you on the show. One, because of the amazing work that you are doing, and all of the things that we're talking about today is really tapping into your inner child for social media and branding success. Before we get into today's topic, you have had a phenomenal career, and also you've transitioned into entrepreneurship. So if you could just share a little bit about your journey, your background, and how did you get where you are today with my audience?
Amazing. Yeah. So my name is Aaron. I grew up here in South Central LA. I was the first person in my family to go to like a traditional college. I went to Morehouse College in Atlanta. I studied biology because I thought I wanted to be a doctor. I was in love with Grey's Anatomy when I was in high school. So I'm like, oh, I like Grey's Anatomy. So when I go to college, I'll just major in biology to be an emergency medicine trauma. I thought it was just that simple. And of course, I thought, yeah, you hear just being from the Black community, be a doctor, be a lawyer, be something with some status. So I'm like, okay, well, I'll be a doctor. It didn't take me long, probably my junior year, to realize that it wasn't my calling, and that being a doctor was some label that I just attached to myself. And it didn't come natural to me. I wasn't good at it, right? I didn't have the best grades. I think I finished Morehouse with a 2.7, 2.8 GPA. And I finished through because I'm like, well, I'm not starting all over. I have to go through with this. So I just finished, and I had to come home to reset. So literally after I graduated, came back to LA and had to start from scratch. I went back to my old elementary school to be a teacher's assistant for a minute. I worked at a grocery store, like bagging groceries. And this is back in my community. So, the ego hit that I took as like a 21 or 21-year-old to come back home with a biology degree, you go to a procedure school like Morehouse, and now you're, bagging groceries, right? And that was a good learning experience for me because I enjoyed what I was doing. I didn't like have any regrets. I was the best cashier and bagger that that store could ever have, right?
Right.
Because I really enjoyed it. And I was trying to figure out what was the learning experience for me in that moment. And I started reading a bunch of books, and I'm like, okay, what's next? Then sales. Like sales was like a thing where all the successful people have gone through. And so I'm like, all right, if I don't know what to do, let me just get into sales. So I went into recruiting sales where I was like cold calling into restaurants like a headhunter and offering my services to find talent for them. And that's the hardest sell, I think, in the industry. One, because you're calling to HR people, telling them to let me do the job for you. Right. And
Right.
and so I got a lot of rejections, did a lot of cold calling, but I built some thick skin there. I still wanted to stay in recruiting, so I transitioned into internal recruiting at a company called Internet Brands, and then I went to Snapchat as a technical recruiter, where I worked with Android and iOS engineers, recruiting them to the company, and still, like figuring it out. Like I moonlighted in the music industry, working in the entertainment industry, managing artists and bands and different things like that. Just very local and small time here in LA. And I'm like, I still don't know what I want to do. Like recruiting is fun, but I want to transition again. And so that's when I went to DoorDash on their partnership team, working with small and top restaurants in the industry, helping them with their strategy within the platform. It was during the pandemic. So the pandemic, DoorDash became the most important company in America at that point because all the restaurants shut down. They had to go through food delivery services in order to survive. People were ordering from DoorDash because they didn't want to leave the house. So it was just like the perfect
Yes.
storm, I guess, for experience for me. I like to say I got my MBA in that moment because I really understood the fact of like what it takes to run a small business. Like I wasn't actually the operator, but I was very close with a lot of these people running small businesses. And then also on the tech side, how to deal with like when your servers are overloaded by customers, what happens then, how to communicate when bad things happen, because there was a lot of bad things happening, dealing with people with emotional trauma that was losing their restaurants left and right. So it was like the ultimate MBA, in my opinion. And I enjoyed my time there, and I was just still like, I want to stay in the entertainment industry, but I want to stay into tech. And then that was when TikTok came about, and I reached out to somebody on LinkedIn, kind of sold my way into the company, and worked with some top influencers and creators on the content side, helping them with their social strategies in app, working with their teams and making sure that they were essentially successful in growing on TikTok. Again, I got lucky because it was a perfect storm. TikTok had just went through the big boom, and I ended up spending 4 years there, where I worked with some of the top influencers. And I think, for me, I wanted to do more. I know from working with those influencers to how to grow socially, but it was also important that a lot of these people didn't have like creative well-being in the sense, working with some
Mm-hmm.
of the people with 20 million followers and still like unhappy, or not being able to, think creatively because of the stress that they had of having this amount, wanting to pivot and can't because they're stuck in this lane of being a fashion creator, and they don't want to be a fashion creator, but they've kind of built this platform, and now they have to stick with it even though it's not making them happy. So I've dealt with so many things. I'm like, I want to do more. I want to still work and help people creatively, but also want to help people with their well-being side. And so that's when I decided to leave and start Inner Child, and that's why I'm here today.
What an amazing story, Aaron. Like just a journey. And one, thank you so much for being transparent in your journey, because I think sometimes, people can see on social media it looks this way, but just to know like you went into more housing. I know what it's like. It's like I know I changed my mind,
Mm-hmm.
and to still keep pushing through. So thank you so much for sharing that and being here.
Thank you.
So yeah, you're welcome. And I love that you have done the pivot into inner child. And I want to talk about what it means to understand your inner child and its role that it plays in branding. So, Aaron, what does it mean to really tap into your inner child, and how does this apply to business and branding? Because you work with some amazing creatives, as you mentioned, and business owners as well.
Yes, I think inner child can mean so many different things. Sometimes the word is very triggering for some people, and then
Mm-hmm.
sometimes it's a positive. They have a positive association. Like the more triggering side is like if you didn't have a great childhood. And I understand those perspectives because when people think of their childhood, they don't have a positive association. So thinking of their inner child is not really where they want to come from in a creative space. But when I'm speaking of about the inner child is the place in where you had so much curiosity in life, and you weren't afraid to like try new things. You weren't afraid to pivot. You just created, and it wasn't a sense of like what you were creating, whether it was a doodle or just a song that didn't make sense, or playing in the room by yourself, and making up these make believe characters. All those things we did when we were kids, or had moments of when we were kids. Not to that extent, but we can still live in that, still live in that lane of
Mm-hmm.
creatively being curious, still live in that lane of wanting to try new things out and not being afraid of the what and how it's looking, but just the trying of it all. And so when I think of that in regards to our adulthood and creating businesses, it's that place of just creative freedom that I think our childhood selves would appreciate. And I think just being able to tap into that in our day-to-day life is where I think a lot of success comes from. And I study a lot of the great entrepreneurs and a lot of the great business people who started these businesses. They always have a similar story of just letting go and creating from a free place. And I think, as we continue to practice letting go, because I'm still personally in the practice of letting go every single day and just
Mm-hmm.
releasing all my expectations and just doing, I think that's when we have the most success as a business owner. And then also if you're a content creator or whatever the case may be. I think another story, like from the bigger content creators that I've worked with over the last 4 years, a very similar story is that they didn't know or understand the impact that that one video would have on their entire life, right? Whether they were
Mm-hmm.
creating for years or they, just posted a video during the pandemic. It's a similar story to just one video being the driving force to change their entire life. And I think that can relate to so many business owners as well, because it only takes one in this new day and age of social media, in this new day and age of just, access to information, to where you only need one good product sometimes. You only need one good video to change the entire fabric of your life. So how I think about that in regards to being in your inner child is just trying as many things as you can to start, right? Of course, it refines itself as you grow, but you never know what one thing that will be the driving force to changing your entire business structure. So as long as we continue creating as if we were a child, I think it gives us a bigger chance of success as we kind of go along our entrepreneurial journeys.
Yeah, I love that. And I definitely resonate with that inner child because even sometimes in business, I have to remind myself, like, I go back to remember those early days. Even when I first started my business, I was just like so fearless, so open, and didn't care. And it's like those early emails were like, okay, we're just going for it. And it's tapping into that younger self as well. So I love that you say that.
Yeah.
And also the fact that now the way that we see business is definitely changing from back in the day. So you're seeing lot more authenticity online. So I want to talk about why is this so important in social media and personal branding, because I know a lot of entrepreneurs, they think, okay, we have to still do it the traditional way. And then what you're saying is, okay, this is what people are resonating with most. And why does that authenticity matter?
Yeah, that's a great question. I really think it matters because there's so many types of information out there. There's so much information from a consumer standpoint, and not even from a
Right,
business standpoint, whether it's
right.
TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, billboards, when you're walking around, like, whatever the case may be, we're just being bombarded with information. And I think the consumers, just speaking of myself, we're getting smarter, right? We've been able to
Mm-hmm.
consume so much information over the last just 2 or 3 years that we can smell authenticity from a mile away, right? And I think it's just becoming more apparent what's a genuine advertisement, what's a legit business, what is a authentic business, because we just have so much data from our consumption, whether it be TV, short form like Netflix shows, whatever the case may be. We're just getting smarter as consumers. So in people getting smarter as consumers, I think it's important for businesses to stay authentic to their brand because we can smell it from a mile away, right? We know when a brand is trying to be like something that isn't really true to themselves because of the information that's out there. So, and I think it's just going to continue to, we're going to, as consumers, they're going to continue to get even smarter because of how much information is being put out there. And I think the brands that, really lean into just being their authentic selves will be able to stand out in the crowd. And I always struggle with this, is like, how do you be authentic when everybody's doing the same thing? Like,
Mm-hmm.
how do I make my soul food restaurant stand out from the other soul food restaurant? We're in the same category. And I think the way about that is because, like, the soul food owner is different from the other soul food owner, right? You may be selling the same food, but the story behind it, the way you cook one particular meal, the way you cook one particular item, a particular menu on a particular item on the menu may be very different than that other place. So I think it's just finding that one thing that stands out for you and just like honing in on that. And I think that's how brands will be able to stand out, especially in this world where people are able to spot a fake, quote unquote, from a mile away.
Yeah. And I'm so glad that you mentioned that story behind it, because my next question is on how do entrepreneurs balance that storytelling with strategy to create that meaningful connection with their audience?
Yeah, I think it's really just coming down to showing the behind the scenes, right? A lot of the businesses that I've seen like do social very well and storytelling is not only showing the highlight reel. I think as a like in this new digital age, people are
Mm-hmm.
okay with seeing highlight reels and just like the success stories and all that. That's great because those things are motivating. I love seeing the good success stories. But I think where a lot of the brands are doing storytelling well is showing the behind the scenes, or starting off with the, I guess, the not so great moments and how it built up to where you are, right? Even if you're not a big restaurant right now, but when did you spark the idea? Tell that story of like how the idea came about. Like, what happened in your childhood to make you want to start this particular soul food restaurant, right? Like, giving the audience that story of like what happened beforehand, I think is important to keep as you continue to grow. Because even in some of the stories that I see, once the restaurant or the business is successful at this particular moment, the storytelling stops because now they're focused on selling. And I think that's one of the biggest mistakes that a business can make, is by transitioning from storytelling to just selling. And now every post that you make, everything that you sell is around getting the products off. And I think no matter how big you are, I really think you have to continue to tell the story as if you were just starting. And the reason why is because every single time you post, there can be a new person that never heard of you in the world that doesn't know your story. And the first impression that they might have is you selling them a product that they have no idea what the story behind is. So I'm not saying every single video needs to be a story, but I don't think every video needs to be a sale either. So I think just still being honest with the story of like where you started, I think is important to keep as you continue to build your branding as a small business or even a large business in this new day and age.
That is so, so good. So somebody is listening, Aaron, and they're like, okay, I know this is something that I've been thinking about. I know this is something that I've been seeing, even from the people that they follow. How do
Mhm.
you advise those who are in a space where they haven't shown their inner child or tapped into that inner child to really reconnect with that creativity and their
Mhm.
unfiltered selves to build that more engaged brand?
Yeah. I think it's just about getting as many shots up in the gym, as they say, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm working through this too, and I'll just, before I give you the direct answer, in me building a social company, I realized that I also have to build my brand as well, right?
Right.
I can't just help people with their social strategies without me building my own social strategy. And it was hard to do while I was working a full-time job because, creating social is sometimes a thing that you have to like constantly stay locked into. Like, you can do it, but for me and how I think, I was just like, all right, like, in order to post every day, I have to set aside a amount of time for this, right? And so I really think it's about shooting as many shots, meaning posting as many things as you can, no matter how you feel about it, right? It doesn't have to be perfect. I think that's the biggest thing, is that you can just post your content, and post your ideas as they come to you. And over time, as you continue to get better at it, you'll start refining and everything will start honing in on what on what kind of content to continue to post. But I think to start and really build that creative muscle and like tap into your inner child is by just at least getting something off, whether it's a talking video, if you're just talking directly to the camera, as a building video where you're showing the process of making your product, whatever the case is. I think it's just doing that as many times a week as you can. And then eventually you will start to really build that muscle of confidence of like, all right, once you start doing it every day, you can make every video that you make a little bit better every single time. Right. So now that I post something, I'm going to like tweak this to the next video. And then the next video, I'm going to tweak something again. And then 30 days from now, you're looking like a professional content creator because you done shot 30 shots in the past 30 days and you've improved every day. So I really think it's important just getting volume out there and then refining as you go to really tap into your inner child to start.
Yeah, I'm so glad that you mentioned that because that's one of the things we look at Black to Business when we get
Yeah.
pitches on podcasts. Is like we'll go on somebody's social media and say like, are they really posting? Are they talking about the area expertise a lot? So that is definitely something that we look at as well. So glad that
Yes.
you mentioned. And now I want to shift into building an engaged audience. So we're talking about tapping into your inner child, and of course, like we've explained, how this is not just like kitty stuff, but I do want to talk about some principles for creating content that really resonates with your audience on platforms like TikTok, Instagram, because also people are thinking, okay, I'm not going to get online and dance every day, but I can do this, or that's not me. So what advice are some key principles that you say are great for creating that content that resonates with your audience?
Yeah, that's a great question. The first thing that came to mind for me was long form content.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of times, especially when people hear like TikTok and like even Instagram Reels, in some instances, they're like, the short, quick content is the content that's really gonna, get the audience going. But when you really think about building an engaged audience, and even just how we consume, right? We're probably more likely going to engage with content, whether that be a like, a comment, a share, a follow, on content that is informational and that we've spent a lot of time. And just the psychology behind it all, I'm more likely to follow somebody after I watch 2 minutes of a video versus
Mm-hmm.
following somebody after watching 10 seconds of a video. Yes, I might like their video and I might think it was entertaining and all that, but if I've invested a minute 30 into a specific type of content, I'm more naturally engaged in that particular audience, right? I'm in that particular video and I'm more likely to follow. The bigger like algorithmic key to a lot of these platforms is watch time. Watch time is like the generator for your videos to get reach. And so the longer people are watching your content, not only are they more engaged, but just from an algorithmic standpoint, that's what you're telling that when people are watching your videos for a longer period of time, you're telling the audience or the algorithm this is a good video and let's recommend it to more people. So I think longer form videos where possible, because I'm not saying not to do short videos. I think those are important as well, but especially for building those the deeper relationships, I think talking or having a video that is a little bit longer can lead to more success. And then the second thing is live. Live is one of those things that it's still at that very early stage. I know Instagram was doing it
Mm-hmm.
for a while. TikTok is, now blowing up in regards to live, and so many other like live platforms like Twitch and YouTube, Amazon. You can even go live there if you're selling.
What?
Yeah, so
I didn't know
there's
that.
there's different ways to tap into the live audience, and I really think live is a good way to build a unique connection to your audience because as consumers, we love live TV, right? We grew up on live TV and watching things live, whether it be like different. Well, we thought they were live; they're probably pre-recorded, but the idea of watching live TV has always been something that I personally liked. And I think when we think of our products as like mini TV shows and look at going live on Instagram as a 30-minute slot every night at 6 p.m. Like if you go live every night at 6 p.m., even if you have a restaurant saying like the chef is going to go live and answer your questions directly about the menu every night from 6 to 6:30 or every Tuesday from 6 to 6:30. If I'm a fan of that restaurant, I'm going to tune in every Tuesday from 6 to 6:30 to watch that particular live, no
Mm-hmm.
matter what platform it's on. So I
Right.
really think it's important for brands, no matter what you sell, to implement a live strategy for growth and just building that deeper connection for sure. So those are the two things that come top of my mind right now.
Those are really good things. And speaking of the algorithm, well, one, I want to take a step back and talk about the consistency because you mentioned this also before, like getting better over time. So somebody's listening, they're like, okay, how often should I be posting or how often should I be going live? And how do I find my rhythm?
Yeah, I'll answer the live one first. The live one is a little like probably the more challenging one to do every day, but the really good live creators are the ones that are going live every day. However, live you can do 1 to 2 times a week, right? Where you just have a specific set time in your calendar where you're setting out and going live, whether that be a Tuesday, a Thursday, or whatever the case may be. And then also on some platforms like TikTok and TikTok Shop and like all these whatnot, you can sell your products on live, right? And those are different ways for you to like really build the audience there. Like if you're doing live selling, kind of like old style QVC. So that's a different thing that I can talk about. But yeah, going live 1 to 2 times a week for now until you get your rhythm is like a good way. In regards to regular posting, I think 1 time per day is a solid place to start. 5 to 7 times a week, if you can get to 7 to 10 times a week, that'll be great. And the reason why is because I want the audience to really think about when you like a video of your favorite content creator or favorite business out there on Monday. Say you like their stuff on Monday, and then on Tuesday they make a post. You're more likely going to see their content on Tuesday because you like their stuff on Monday. The algorithms are built to send you people and things that you engage with. So if your favorite content creator is posting Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and you're liking every single day or watching their videos every single day, as long as they keep posting a video, that particular person is going to be shown on their pages because they've engaged with your content the previous day. Now, if you post on Monday and wait until next Monday to post, your audience has a chance to engage with so many different types of people Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday that when you post again on that next Monday, they'll see your stuff, but it's probably less likely because that particular user has been engaging with so many other types of content a week in that week span, right? So I think if you can get into a rhythm where you're posting at least once a day or once every other day to start, I think that really kind of engages your audience and allows you to be seen consistently in their feeds no matter what platform you're on.
That's really good. Another thing you mentioned is the algorithm. So, what are some ways to work with social media algorithms than against them, rather than against them?
Yeah. I think it really is thinking about the perspective of the company, right? Thinking about if I'm like a TikTok, if I'm an Instagram, if I'm a YouTube, what type of things would I need to do to keep people on my platform, right? And like I mentioned, one way to work with it is by the longer form content, right? The longer people stay, the more incentivized they are to stay on the platform, right? So if you're posting a minute or 2 minute video, a 3 minute video, make sure that it's engaging as well because you don't want to just post a video for 10 minutes long just for the sake of doing it if it wasn't engaging all the way through. So I think the biggest thing, to work with the algorithm is figuring out what features are new on these platforms. What features are people using? Not only thinking about the content, but what are some features that are popular, whether it be reply to comment with video feature, whether it be with captions. I think captions is a cool way to work with these platforms as well because not everyone there's a high percentage of people that consume social media that watch stuff with the volume off. Think about people that
Mm-hmm.
are at work watching videos and they don't have time to put their headphones in or they have to watch on silent. The captions are really important. So working with the algorithm in that way, using text on screen to announce what the video is actually about, figuring out what sounds are popular on particular platforms. I think one thing I've noticed a difference is that some sounds that are viral on Instagram Reels may not be viral on TikTok or YouTube. So figuring out what types of sounds work with your content and what type of sounds and if sounds are needed at all. Because on TikTok, there are multiple videos with people talking to the camera and don't have music in the background, right? Sometimes music is not needed for a video, especially if you're just talking to the camera. Some of those videos do well without sound. So I think it's just kind of figuring out those four things of like what is specific to these platforms and how and what's popular. That's very cliche, but just like utilizing these platforms is important as well. I talk to a lot of like content creators sometimes, and like I'm just starting to work with businesses, but just from the businesses that I'm talking to now, I'm like, do you use TikTok? Are you on Instagram Reels? A lot of people aren't like consumers on these, which I understand. People don't want to like be on social media all the
Mm-hmm.
time, but it's hard to utilize a product and know what to do if you're not spending at least 10 to 20 minutes on these platforms a day, right? You can't say that you want to grow on TikTok, but you don't utilize TikTok in your everyday life as a consumer, just looking at what people are doing on there. So I think it's important to really understand what these platforms is doing before you start posting on them. Like it's impossible to just get on TikTok and start posting. You just don't know the language of how they communicate. So those are the biggest pieces of advice that I would get for sure.
Yeah. And Aaron, what are your thoughts on paid ads?
Yeah, paid ads. Like so, my focus, just so I lay this out there, my focus with the content creators and brands that I work with is organic. So organic social
Mm-hmm.
media posts, like without the paid ads, right? There's a specific science in doing paid advertisement that just me working at TikTok, I wasn't on that side. I was working with organic social media creators and not working with the paid advertisement. So that's not my wheelhouse of knowledge, right? I will start to dive deep into there, but I still think paid ads is a very specific skill that some people that it's a learned thing. But what I would say about paid advertisements is that paid ads don't necessarily guarantee engagement.
Mm-hmm.
You're just guaranteeing eyeballs. So I think when people do paid ads too soon, especially if you're a business owner and your first video that you ever posted, you're paying to get it reached, right? You don't even know if this content is good. You don't even know if what you're doing is going to resonate with the audience. You're just like putting money behind a not so well thought out video, which I see sometimes. And you're only guaranteeing eyeballs. So you're only guaranteeing that it gets in front of 5,000 people, but you're not guaranteeing that people like this. You're not guaranteeing that people comment on it. You're not guaranteeing that people follow. You're just guaranteeing people getting this in front of people. So what I recommend is people do organic social media posts to start, right? You see what resonates with the audience in the organic. So if you have a particular video or idea or concept that works when you're doing it organically and you post it naturally and it gets a million views, okay, this concept can work. So now you know that when you post it again and you wanted to do 30 million views or whatever, you can put a few dollars behind it at this point because you understand that the concept works. And now when you put money behind it and it gets eyeballs, you're also going to get engagement, likes, shares, comments, follows, because you already proved that it worked on the organic side. So I would say organic social media first. And then as you grow and build your voice, and then you can kind of start, implementing the paid advertisements as you go. But I think all businesses should start with organic first, 100%, to just really see what works.
Yes, and I know a lot of people are glad to hear that because it's like also when you're starting your business, you want to also minimize the cost of starting. So
Mm-hmm.
that's good to know.
And, and
And
and one more thing I'll add about that is like for platforms like TikTok and YouTube Shorts and Reels, even to a certain extent, I always tell this story. Like my mom right now can get on TikTok with 0 followers. Maybe like say she had 15 followers. She can literally go right now, post on TikTok, and it get 30 million views. Like
mm-hmm.
that's the world that we're in where it's like you don't have to have the followers anymore. There's not a slow build that you need anymore to get views on your content. Like I can go and post a video right now with 15 followers and get 50 million views on that video if the content was good, if it resonated. So that automatically levels the playing field to where you don't have to think paid advertisement first. You just have to think of what's going to resonate and just let me shoot my shots. Let me shoot as many shots as I can on this TikTok or YouTube shorts because one of these videos can go viral. One of them can get a million views without any paid advertisements, right? So I think it's just important to know that, you're one post away most times. And, that's where paid advertisement doesn't always have a factor into how far that video reaches in regards to views and stuff.
Certainly. And Aaron, what are some tools or techniques that people can use to analyze and also improve their content's performance? So, how well am I doing? How do I know this is doing good?
Yeah, I like paying attention to the analytics. Like most platforms, you're able to like view your analytics, and I'll speak for TikTok because TikTok has like the bet like some of the better analytics. All platforms do, but TikTok, I like the way it's kind of formatted personally. So basically, you can do this every week. You can do this every video. A lot of people don't like to do this every video because they don't want to be too analytical about their content. But when you're trying to figure out what's working and what's not working, I think it's cool to do it every other video or whatever the case may be. So basically, in TikTok, you can see literally, where people like dropped off in the video, what was the average play duration. So if you posted a 30-second video, you can go and see like on average eight people watch 8 seconds of this video, right? So I always look at it like this. So if people watch 8 seconds of this video, they probably dropped off around the 7 second mark. And so then I like to go back into that video and say, okay, at the 7 second mark, what was I doing to get this average drop off? Like, where did I lose my audience? And so I'll speak personally for like my videos. For example, if I'm doing like a talking video, I'm talking about like my day or whatever the case may be, and it's 30 seconds long, and I saw people dropped off at the 10 second mark. A lot of times when I go back and see what I was doing at the 10 second mark, I realized that it probably was a pause, right? Sometimes I paused in that moment. Like I was talking, 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 and then I went, and then that's what happened at the 10 second mark. So if we become scientists around the content and go and see what was going on around the drop off point, we can then understand, oh, maybe I don't need to have this much dead space between talking points, or maybe I should throw a text on screen there, or maybe I should stop the music there, or maybe I should make a face there, or maybe I should show the product here. Just figuring out what was going on at that moment of the drop off to really get your audience. And so then over time, you build. So that 10 seconds then turns to an 11-second watch time, and then 12 seconds, and then 30 seconds, and then you just continue to grow. You can also see where people liked your videos at the exact point. So if you're having a 30-second video and people liked it at the 15-second mark, you can literally see where the most engagement happened. And you can say, what did I say here that really engaged the audience? Okay, if people liked it when I said this here, then maybe I should start my videos there sometimes. So I think, just kind of figuring out what works and looking at the analytics in your videos usually helps with that. And if you like analytics on one platform, usually it can translate to other platforms because videos are videos and people are going to like what they like. But I think, just kind of figuring out what went wrong and what went well in these videos, I think are important for success across all platforms.
Mm, that is a great example. And yeah, the pause. Okay, so that's good to know. All the things. Okay, this
Yeah.
is so good. So now I want to transition into the wellness and mindset because we've talked about creating the content. And one of the things that I like that you mentioned is just like making sure that the well-being of the creative well-being. So how does mental health and spiritual well-being impact an entrepreneur's ability to create and sustain content? Let's talk about it.
Yes. Okay. So I am 16 days into this entrepreneurial journey.
Mm-hmm.
I did the thing of waiting until I actually left TikTok to start, right? Some people,
Yeah.
probably start and like, go at the same time, which is fine. But I knew for me, I couldn't do that because it would be a conflict of interest if I wanted to work with the same creator. So I'm just like, I have to do this cold turkey, right? And so in doing that and having a paycheck at these companies for the last 10 years, it's been an adjustment over the last 16 days, kind of like having to think about upcoming bills and things like that. And just like,
Mm-hmm.
it starts to affect you mentally and spiritually. And I'm just sharing
Mm-hmm.
this because this is something that is real time happening with me. And I would say over the last few days, I wasn't, feeling the best, right? I'm in the,
Right.
the the lower point of this entrepreneur journey, and I know, like you probably know, doing it and working with so many people, there's like highs and lows constantly.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And so it's just figuring out for me when am I low and when am I high. And so those are the questions that I have been asking myself over the last day and couple of days is like, what am I doing when I'm low? And what am I doing when I'm high? Like where are my thoughts when I'm low? Like what sparked this? Is it, and for me, it was a lot of comparison. I had amped up my amount of time, on social media, like just consuming content. And so I'm just hearing all these stories and I'm like, okay, maybe I need to take a break there. And then also when I'm high, I am in my normal practices. I'm doing my meditations. I'm doing my prayers in the morning. I'm doing all those things. Okay, that fell off. Okay, so maybe I need to get back on that. So I feel like for me, it's important to figure out what works for you and pay attention to the moments of when you're feeling good and what you were doing to feel good. Was it just an internal feeling that made you feel good? And or was it an internal feeling that made you feel bad? So I think it's really just being aware of what's going on inside of you to make you feel the way you feel. And then also another thing that I'm starting to realize is that I cannot let the external circumstances dictate how I feel about my business and my entrepreneurial journey, right? I can't let what I see out there, whether it be the no income for a week, or I can't let the idea of what somebody else is doing in the same industry, I can't let all of that external stuff affect what's going on internally. I have to realize that this idea and my business idea came from inside of me, right? If it came from inside of me, there's nothing externally that can affect what came from in me, right? And so when I reflect on those things, and I'm even as I'm talking about it, I'm kind of going through the healing process right now,
Mm-hmm.
is because I had to realize that externally didn't make this idea. And so if externally didn't make your idea, then externally cannot take your idea away, right? And it shouldn't be
Yes.
anything that should affect what's going on outside of you that affects what you do in your business. And once we realize that, we then immediately come back to a place of creating. We come back from a place of like, all right, I have it within me, so let me put it out there. It's not about what I take in, it's about what I put out. And so I think it's just reminding ourselves that we are the creator of this. And if God or your higher power and whatever you believe in gave you this idea, then there's nothing that can take it away from you. So I think it's just remembering that and continue to live in that. I think can allow us to create from a creatively well place.
Yes. So Aaron, I was over here like amen corner because I'm like, preach, preach. So I had to message Aaron like preach. And I think so many people can resonate with that. And it's so good that you say like pay attention to how you're feeling. Even myself, I find myself having to do that as well. It's like when I'm feeling this day, I know I got to be on video, doing the things.
Mm-hmm.
And other days it's like taking it slow and resting and doing all the
Right.
things that need to be done. So yes, I'm so happy you also shared that you're 16 days in this, because we have a lot of early stage entrepreneurs who are listening and they're like, okay, how am I going to get over this hump? How am I going to make that transition? And so you were strategic in your transition. And I know a lot of people can resonate with like the
Mm-hmm.
conflict of interest thing. So
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
And
definitely.
I would say like the biggest thing for me that has been helpful, and this isn't even something that I did purposely. When I announced that I was leaving, so many people that that started their entrepreneurship journey maybe a year or a few months ago, they reached out, right? And so they were like, "Hey, can we talk?" And I wasn't asking for this because sometimes I'm a stubborn tourist. I'm a stubborn tourist sometimes, and I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
I can figure it out. I can figure it out. But honestly, God was sending me people to like talk to, and like we would get on the call. I'm like, okay, what they want, and they're just like, I just wanted to like share and like give you encouragement and let you know that I did it, so you can do it too. That's been the sentiment.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
so I think that is important to like surround yourself with people that have done it before. But it's important in the people that you surround yourself that has done it before that they have a positive relationship to it, because sometimes we can surround ourselves around people that'll just try to talk you out of it. Like this stuff is hard. I wouldn't. You sure you want to do this? Okay.
Yeah.
I don't really need to hear that right now. I just need to hear like, yeah, it's hard, but I've did it. Yeah, it's hard, but
Mm-hmm.
you'll get through it. Yeah, it's
Mm-hmm.
hard, but take your time. Yeah, you'll go through your lows, but you'll also go through your highs. Like those are the type of messages and the type of people that you want to surround yourself with. The other types of people will come, but it's really about building your circle to who's going to be motivating to where you want to go instead of demotivating to like why you even do it in the first place, right? Because we do that to ourselves enough. Like I,
Yeah.
I beat myself down enough of like, you sure you want to do this? You sure you ain't gonna make no money? How you gonna pay rent in a year from now? Like, what's gonna happen then? Like, we talk to ourselves enough like that. So I don't need to hear it from anybody else. If I'm gonna talk to myself and I'm already trying to control this internal voice that works with me every single day of like I'm not good enough and me trying to silence that, if I have a hard time silencing that, I don't need to hear what you have to say around the negativity. I haven't had those experiences yet. God has sent me
Mm-hmm.
positive people to
Mm-hmm.
speak into me, but just being mindful of that and also working on that internal voice as well, I think is important in this journey.
Yes, I certainly agree. And speaking of like the early stages and just around consistency and the mindset around this, what advice would you give for entrepreneurs who want to avoid that burnout where they're trying to grow and then also not feel overwhelmed?
Yeah. I would say overwhelm is like a big one. It's a big word for a lot of entrepreneurs because a lot of people probably stepped out on faith. A lot of people probably did it scared. Like for lack of a better term, they move forward, with fear and all the stuff, right? First one in the family to do something like this, all the stuff. And so I think it's important to combat overwhelm by writing things down. And I'm preaching to the choir right now because I have a problem writing. Like I'm a poet at heart. I can write lyrics, I can write, words, but I have sometimes a hard time writing what I need to be doing over the next month or next week. Right. And I think a good way to avoid that burnout is by writing things on paper. If you can get pen to paper, or if you operate well, getting things in your phone. But I think once you start writing down your content ideas, what you want to do, it becomes smaller than you, right? And the reason
Mm-hmm.
why I say that is because a lot of the stuff when it's in our head, it seems like this big thing. It's bigger than us. It's just like these things that are controlling us. Like the ideas are moving us. The ideas are telling us where to go. The ideas are, kind of letting us know what to post and whatever the case may be. But when we write things down, we write our content ideas down and we plan our content, we become bigger than the content. And I'm not saying that from like a egotistical standpoint, but I'm just saying you become the creator in a sense because now it's on paper, it's somewhere where you can like control and be like, all right, like this isn't as overwhelming as I thought, right? This isn't as big as I thought it was. It's just some words on the paper. And now how do I get these words off the paper onto the screen? Right? Instead of it being in our head, it then becomes overwhelming because we have all these big ideas. But these big ideas become actionable ideas when we write them down. And so I think that's important is just kind of getting things down, especially as we start, it'll make things a lot less pressurized in the sense.
Yeah. And what about for those people who are navigating that imposter syndrome? So when they're putting themselves out there on social media,
Mhm.
what advice would you give them?
I would say one, no one knows what they're doing in a sense on social media, especially like the bigger creators that I work with. They just kind of did it and like it just became random. And then also people, especially for platforms like TikTok, if we even think about our social like our biggest like videos that we like on social media or whatever the case may be, those videos were the ones that had probably bad lighting. Somebody was talking on their phone and it was shaking all everywhere. The camera quality was off, and somebody was probably stuttering, or the sound muted. Like I'm not saying go and create these videos purposely messed up videos, but I'm saying that to say that super perfected videos are not necessarily the videos that are going to be successful on the platform. Sometimes the ones that are the most natural to who you are and who you are as a person are the ones that get the most reach and are the ones to change the whole course of your business. So I think it's really important to just understand that who you are is what people will resonate with the most. And then also, if you have that imposter syndrome, you don't necessarily have to be on camera all the time, right? You can start off with a voiceover. You can start off with, just having your product and just talking over the product, or having your hands in a way, or doing street interviews of how good your food tastes, or whatever the case may be. So there's ways to do things off camera to where you can just have your voice in the play of things. And right, not every brand needs to have a face on the camera. So I think it's important just to figure out what works for you, but then also at the same time realize that no one knows what they're doing, and pay attention to your favorite content creators. they are probably in the bed laying down with the blanket over them and just talking, and those are the people that we resonate with the most because it's the most relevant to how we operate on a day-to-day basis. So I think just be yourself and just shoot more shots. And as you shoot more shots, I think the imposter syndrome goes away because you realize that no one is paying attention to you in that way and judging you in that way, to where you need to be so specific on what type of content you create. As long as you're not hurting nobody or talking down to anybody, I think you're in a safe place if you're creating from a free space.
Well said.
Yeah.
Aaron, this has been so good. So I want to transition into the work that you are doing even more. So what are some of the services that you offer to entrepreneurs who want to strengthen their brand and social media presence?
Yeah, so for entrepreneurs and content creators alike, it's one-on-one coaching. I have a one-on-one coaching service where we have a first introduction call where I get to know you, get to know what you're looking to do, what products you're looking to build, how you're looking to build it, and then I take a few days and I build a bespoke strategy for you. So I come to that particular presentation with a whole PowerPoint deck, for lack of a better term, on what I think you should be doing content wise. I'll do research on people in your particular niche, on what's worked best. If you're in the food and beverage niche, if you're in the makeup industry, I'll do a deep dive onto like what successful businesses were able to do in this particular arena, and give you a bespoke strategy and different content ideas for your specific brand. I'll also walk you through the basics of social media. And sometimes people don't need the basics. They'll probably be like more intermediate, but telling you more details about how the algorithms work, what to do in regards to how many times to be posting, hashtags, what type of captions to be using, where do I find sounds, like all those basics of social media. You'll get all that in that one presentation. So we'll have that one presentation. You can do 2 calls, 4 calls, 6 calls. I really want to build a relationship. I don't want it to be a one and done thing. So essentially, like the packages that I provide, it's going to have a follow-up aspect to it where we're constantly checking in over that month to really see how things improved or not improved and where should we pivot. I'll also offer a free group coaching call called Child's Table every Friday at 11 a.m. Pacific time. If you don't have the necessary funds to pay for one-on-one coaching or bespoke strategy, this is where groups of people, entrepreneurs, content creators, can come in and ask me questions directly. And we do that every Friday. I just had my first one recently. And so that's going to be a thing that I'm really excited. I'm probably more excited about that because people come to that a little bit more freer and they're able to ask questions. They hear from other people, which I think is important because sometimes you don't necessarily know what to ask. But when you're in a room with other people asking questions, you're like, oh, I didn't even think about it like that. I didn't know that was a thing that you can do or a question to ask. So I'm really excited about Child's Table and what I'm doing there every Friday from 11 a.m. to 12. So that's what we're doing for now. And if you're looking for an influencer strategy, I know a lot of people here are probably on the smaller business side. But if you're a bigger business and you're ready to like start tapping into influencers and getting them to promote your product, I also do have a separate business line for that where I talk about how to reach out to these influencers. And then also, if you need me to do the influencer outreach for you, I'm able to do that as well. So those are the things that I do. And I know as I continue to go on the journey, those things may change over time as the needs become more apparent from my customer base. But for now, that's what I'm offering to my folks.
And that is good enough.
Yeah.
And how can people find and be a part of these programs? Is it just going to the website or how did they onboard?
Yeah, so you can follow me on social. Inner Child Creative, and that's Child CHYLD. So Inner Child Creative on all social platforms: Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, and then there's a link tree in the bio of all those platforms that you can click, and it'll take you to Child's Table, which is a free service. It also takes you to a place where you can book my one-on-one, like a one-on-one consultation. I call it an alignment session where we just meet and talk about the services and get to know you a little bit more if you want to do that. And then it also has a link there to my website, which has all the other links as well. So that's where you can find me. But I would just start on the social, Inner Child Creative, on all social platforms.
Perfect. And we'll put those in the show notes as well. And Aaron, I know it's only been about 16 days, but what has been the most surprising part of this entrepreneur journey for you?
Ooh. Um ah I know I'm about to be really transparent right now.
Okay.
Uh so it is I would say a week ago. Because when I first announced I was doing it, I had all these supporters and people
Mm-hmm.
like I had about 600 likes on my Instagram post when I announced I was leaving, and on TikTok, like all the stuff, like people like supportive. And then as you go, and I'm pretty sure everybody out there can resonate, you start to see like the likes dwindle, the from the
Mm-hmm.
people that supported you, like like it starts going down a little bit, a lot of it actually. And so I was getting a little salty at like the one day. I'm like, dang, like you can at least reshare my stuff. Dang, I know you see it. Like,
Right.
come on, get my face out there. Like, help me out. But what I did understand is that I saw it was random. I don't know if you know Wallow and Gilly. Wa-
Yes.
yeah, so I love them. And so Wallow he speaks, and I randomly when I was going through this moment, I randomly came across a video from Wallow on TikTok, and he was saying the thing I hate about entrepreneurs is y'all complaining about, yeah, my people don't support y'all, my people ain't supporting me. Like, and you complain. He was like, you worried about your 100 friends? He said there's a billion people out there in this world and you worried about the 100 people that your friends and family that aren't liking. Like, it's cool. Like, you didn't create the business for them. Like, and so
Mm-hmm.
when he said that, I was like, dang, that is real. Like, my business wasn't made for the people that I'm thinking that I'm thinking that should support me. The business was made for the people out there, not in my circle. So I don't need to worry about like marketing within my circle and like figured out how to get this to the people that already know who I am. It's about reaching and touching people outside of my influence. So when he said that, it just like shifted something in my brain to be like, okay, like the people on my side will support me as they can because they probably don't even see it. It's not even personal. It's just it's just it's just a thing that people do normally as humans. So that helped me to realize that my business wasn't made for the people that know me. My business was made for the people that I have yet to know. And so as I continue to grow, it'll touch those people that need me and that I need that need the services that I offer, and that's all I care about. And so once we figure that out, I think it'll help us on our journeys for sure.
Yes. And I'm so glad that you mentioned that because it's like it took you less than 16 days to figure that out. It takes a lot of people a long time, a lot longer to figure that out. So that's good that you learned that early. Um,
Yes.
yeah. And also, any tools or resources that you recommend for entrepreneurs who are listening that they can utilize starting today to improve their content strategy?
Yeah, I would say look into all the social media platforms like have like a creator hub, so to speak, right? They have places where you can go and watch free videos like TikTok has TikTok University, where you can go and like look at courses and like learn different things. Those are all free. Like you can just literally go and type in on TikTok University and it comes up with all these academies, all these talks, all these PowerPoints of different things. And a lot of that information is free. And like Instagram has a similar thing. So I would just say start there and like read at least one of those things a day, right? Where you're just like you don't have to spend hours and hours studying them, but make sure to like watch a video or two every single day on those particular platforms because you'll be surprised that like one little tidbit can like help change the way you think about things. So I would say that is a great way to start for sure.
Love that. And my final question, Erin, is what does it mean to you to be Black in business?
Ooh, yeah, it means being a leader. Being a
Mm-hmm.
leader. That's the first word that came to my mind, and I think everyone has leadership qualities within them. It's just like untapped. I read a quote in a book once that said, "True leadership is not about telling people to follow me," and that resonates so directly with content. Right? True leadership is not saying "follow me." True leadership is saying "I'll go first." And when you think about the Black people within our history, like the people that were change makers, the people that really did the darn thing in our history books, they weren't the people who said like, "Come follow me." Like when we think about these civil rights leaders and we look at people like Harriet Tubman and we look at people like Sojourner Truth and we look at people like Tabitha Brown, like these were people that said, I'll go first. And I think being those people is like in our DNA of like leadership. It's the people that being like on the forefront of society. So being Black in business is, to me, means being a leader and saying, I'll go first and I'll do it. I'll do it for us. And then I'll create leaders outside of me being a leader. Leaders are going to be created from me. So I think that's just like the important thing that I feel being a black leader in this day and age.
Yes. Power. And where can people continue to support you? Where can they follow you and find you online?
Yes, so it'll be Inner Chyle, INNER Chyle Creative, on all social platforms. My website is innerchildcreative.com. You can email me at aaron@innerchildcreative.com. Any place, and then feel free to come to the Child's Table. Like Child's Table is like where it's going down. Like you can meet other creatives in the industry. There were two people that was on my last Child's Table. They were both from Minnesota, and a lot of Minnesotan people don't meet each other, I guess, in like the real world, especially if they move different places. But they were able to reconnect, and like, so I think it's just important to just hear other stories. So come to the Child's Table. It's free every Friday at 11, and we're talking about our spiritual journeys. We're talking about our creative journeys, but then we're also talking about content strategies as well. So definitely come out to the Child's Table.
We'd love to see it. Aaron, first, thank you so much for being on the show, but also pouring into our audience and allowing us and showing us ways how to tap into our inner child. And then also, congratulations on your new transition into entrepreneurship. We are behind you. We are supporting you. And just thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for this platform. I really appreciate it. Like, this is important for Black businesses, so you're doing great work yourself.
This conversation with Aaron was a much needed reminder that who you are at your core is more than enough. The creativity you had as a child isn't something you have to grow out of to succeed in business. In fact, embracing that part of you might just be the thing that helps you stand out and stay consistent. In a world that often rewards performance over authenticity, choosing to show up as your full self is a powerful move. So here are a few takeaways from this conversation. Your inner child holds the creativity and confidence your brand needs to stand out. Consistency comes when you let go of perfection and start creating with intention. Being yourself online isn't unprofessional. It's what builds real connection and trust. So for more information about Aaron, how to connect with him, and some of the resources that were mentioned, visit blacktobusiness.com/247. And don't keep this one to yourself. Send it to another entrepreneur who's ready to show up more fully in their business. We appreciate you so much for being a part of the Black to Business family. Every time you choose growth, lean into your purpose, and build with intention, you're helping shift what's possible for all of us. I can't wait to see you back here next week for another episode to help support you in your journey. But until then, keep building boldly and keep pushing the culture forward. Later.